I crashed my car into a sorority. So this was the second or last day of exam week, fall semester, freshman year. You guys know how that is. Like, you have exam week. Some people will occasionally get done a day or two before you just because of how the schedule goes. So it's Thursday, and it's like Thursday evening. I get back to my dorm after my last exam, and I was gonna go home. Originally, I was gonna go home, call it a semester, and go from there. But when I got back, my buddies were pre-gaming and were saying, they were gonna go out, and I was like, well, I could definitely stay one more day. Like, I don't have anything to do. And they were like, come on, dude, just stay. So I'm like, all right, I'll stay. But I'm really hungry. I want to go to Taco Bell and get some food. So it had snowed, again, up in Bowling Green, Ohio. So it had snowed a shit ton. The roads were, semi-clear, not that great. And I hop in my little Mazda to go get Taco Bell, and my buddies Maurice and Tay come with me. So I back my car out, and for all the BG kids, we lived in Harshman, which was a dorm that got knocked down right across from Kreischer. So I backed my little Mazda out. And, it was one of those little small four-door Mazdas, but it was kind of fast. So I don't know how or why it happened, but for some reason, I think it was Maurice said something about my car, and I was like, oh yeah, well, watch this, I'm gonna fucking punch it. So there's a straightaway from where I was to up to this next dorm, which is Conklin, and there's this like little S in the road as you come into like the Greek village where all the sorority houses are. So I punch it, and again, weather, it's wintertime up in Ohio, so weather's not that great, and I'm flying. I'm probably going like, all the campus roads are what, 10, 15 miles an hour, and I'm probably going like 40, 50 miles an hour, and then I take that turn. I don't know if I took it too hard, maybe I just hit something. Long story short, I lose control of the car. And when you're in those situations, and you right when you fuck up, you're just like, oh, this is not gonna go well. And right when you know that you fucked up, everything just kind of happens in slow motion from there. So like, I feel the car my little Mazda 6 is just spinning out, and as it's spinning, I look over. Maurice is like this in my passenger seat. He's like, top, 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 top. I'm like, oh shit. And I just see Tay, he didn't have a seatbelt on. I just see his head go flying past in the back seat. And I'm doing everything I can to slow the car down. I slam on the brakes. I rip the e-brake, and we just keep spinning. Well, finally, we just hit something, and like it slams us all back. The car stops, and I'm like, what the hell? And Maurice is going, oh shit. So like my car, whatever we hit so hard that the car just stops, and I'm like, holy shit, this is not good. And like every light on my dashboard's on because I just got in an accident, but the airbags didn't go off or anything. So I'm like, holy shit. Well, we start looking around. There's a car that's kind of like parallel parked on the side of the road, and I'm like, that had to be what we hit, because like we were looking around like there was like a mailbox there and a couple other buildings, and I'm like, nothing else is messed up. We had to have hit that car. So we're looking at the car, and everything looks fine. Like the body of the car is fine, and I look back at Tay and Maurice, and they're like, leave, leave, leave. I'm like, all right, we're leaving. So I start my car, and it turned on fine. So I'm like, oh shit, yeah, we're out of here. So we just start driving to Taco Bell, thinking like, damn, like, we don't know what happened, but I think it kind of worked out. So we're going to Taco Bell, and on the way there, you start to hear like some shaking and rattling, and we pull up at the red light right there in front of Founders. It's like a four-way stop, and the delivery guy for this pizza place called Polly Eyes, like, this dude's always bumping. He's zipping in and out of traffic all the time. Like, he's just, if you get Polly Eyes by this dude bumping. He's got some kind of wicked bass in his little CRV Honda. So he's next to us, and we look over, and he's pointing and saying something. And we're like, what is he saying? So Maurice rolls down the window, and he looks at me and goes, you better keep that shit away from me, bro. You better keep that shit away from me. Get that shit out of here. And I'm like, whoa, what? Like, what? So then the light changes, he punches it, and as we're off campus, so we're driving on some actual roads, and like I can hear a bunch of like shaking, rattling, something's dragging on the ground. I'm like, oh man, my car's messed up. So we pull into Taco Bell. Before we go in the drive-thru, I get out, and my car's totaled. Like the whole front's hanging off, the bumper's broke and ripped, hanging off on the ground. My grill's, God knows where. Like the whole front of my car's just destroyed. And I look at Sam Reed and I'm like, well, I mean, I'm fucked, but we could at least get some Taco Bell, So we go through the Taco Bell line in my totaled car, and as we're driving back, we pull up the same way we came in, because it's the only way back. So we pull up, there's like 10, 12 sorority girls standing out there on the sidewalk. There's a cop there taking notes down, and I pull up with my Taco Bell, Tay and Maurice, in this wrecked car. While as we're pulled up, I just look at Tay and Maurice, and I'm like, you guys are my witnesses. Whatever I say, just roll with it. They're like, yeah, we got you. I'm like, all right, cool. So we pull up, And this girl's pissed. She's like, you could just tell this girl's pissed. Well, what we thought was fine with the car was not. When I spun out, I can't even believe it happened, but there was like almost no damage on the body of this girl's car. Like I said, we really thought we either hit something else or the car was just fine. Like, thought my car took the damage of the hit. But I just hit her tire. Like, I just hit the tire and the rim head on. So I hit her tire so hard that it was dangling off the axle, but it looked like everything was okay until you got closer and you see the tire's totally sideways. So the front of my car's ruined. Her car is undrivable, like considered totaled. And the cop comes over to me and goes, "So I'm guessing this was you?" I'm like, "Yeah, like it was me." And he's like, "Why'd you leave? Why'd you leave the scene of the crime?" You know, he's like, "Was it hit and run?" I'm like, "No, it wasn't a hit and run. I just wanted to make sure my car would start." And then once it started, I was like, "Well, we're pretty hungry, so we went and got some Taco Bell." And I figured by the time that we got back, you'd be here. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense." So we get back, and he's like, "Well, why don't you take me through what happened?" I was like, "Well, you know," and while he's trying to talk to me, this chick is screaming. She's like, "He ruined my car. He was out of control." La, 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 la. And I'm like, I didn't know that they watched the whole accident take place. Her and all her sorority sisters watched the whole accident take place from, I think it's Kyo, from whatever house is right there on the edge by Conklin. So they watched me just destroy my car and crash into hers and then leave. So they're pissed. They're screaming all this horrible stuff at us while we're trying to talk to the cop. The cop's like, calm down, whatever, whatever. So finally, he listens to us, and I'm like, "Look, I wasn't even going that fast. I came around the corner kind of weird, and I even said, like, a weird-ass thing." He's like, "Oh, yeah, I understand." So I acted like I slid on some black ice. So he walks over to the road, and there's this little patch of, like, water. There was no black ice anywhere. And I was like, right there. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I can see what you're saying." He's a campus cop, whatever. He's pretty chill. So he comes back over to me, and just because we weren't dicks and they were being so bitchy about the whole thing, he goes, "Look, she was illegally parked." And we're like, "Yes, she was illegally parked." He's like, "Well, she was illegally parked because she had her flashers on. She was packing up to leave as well from her sorority house, but she illegally parked on the side of this campus road where you're not supposed to park." So even though I totally crashed the car into her, wiped out and everything, it was a mutual fault accident, which is way, for you who don't know insurance claims, that's way better when it's a mutual fault situation. So even though I totally wiped my car out and was going way too fast down this campus road, she was illegally parked. So the cops telling us this, and Tay's in the back just dying laughing. And I'm like, "Dude, you gotta stop laughing." And anyway, so we end up filling out the paperwork or whatever, and it's far from over. But my witnesses said that I just crashed, and all her girls, they didn't really see how fast I was going because they just saw the accident at the end. So it worked out that it was a mutual fault accident. We go back, and when we get back to my dorm, I'm like, I gotta call my dad. So my dad, he's on his Christmas vacation. He's having his final office party, like that Christmas party that all the office people have their last day before the holiday. And I call him, and I'm like, "Oh shit, this is not gonna go well." And I can tell he's been drinking a little bit, and he's like, "Oh, hey buddy, what's up?" I'm like, "Yeah, I just totaled the car." And he, "What the fuck?" He's just screaming in the phone, "What the fuck happened?" I'm like, "Well, I wasn't really going that fast. I just slid on some ice, and I, hit this girl's car who was illegally parked." I tell him everything, and then give him a little bit of the fake tears, like, "Oh, Dad, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to." And it ended up being like a mutual thing. Obviously, my dad wasn't happy about it, and it cost me a lot. It cost me like $1,500 to fix my car, but it could have been a lot worse. If you think you want to stay one more day, just go home. It is not worth it to stay if you're gonna do something stupid. He's dying. He's not dying. So yeah,